Hi, friends. Thanks for tuning in to the Mental Fitness Unscripted podcast, where our conversation will encourage your healthy living journey. Inspired by our Team Quadzilla coaching motto, healthy living starts between your ears, we talk about mental fitness in ways that challenge us to think about our thinking regarding topics like habits, leadership, exercise, values, marriage, parenting, and faith. Our hope with this podcast is to sharpen you as we sharpen ourselves to be all we were made to be. So let's dive right into the conversation on this episode of Mental Fitness Unscripted. Right, that sounds good.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. We are heavy into Christmas season now, right?
It's what is it, the 20th? Wow.
Yeah.
It's right on us now.
Isn't it? I was writing this morning in my journal about, and I've said this many times around my family. The famous song, "It's the most wonderful time of the year." And I say that kind of sarcastically because everybody is just so worked up and stressed. And it's like, oh, we got to get here. We're late. Or how am I going to do this? And I'm just like, yep, it's the most wonderful time of the year. And I'll just confess that it really bothers me. It really bothers me that the season that's supposed to be about something so awesome ends up becoming just an amplification of everything, whether it's good or bad. It gets amplified at this season, and that makes it stressful, I guess. I don't know how else to say it, but I don't know. Am I the only one, or do you experience any of that?
I think you're not the only one. Do I experience that? I do, but I'm funny about Christmas. I love Christmas. Picture's worth 1,000 words. I'm going to unplug here.
Okay.
I got to turn the light on though. And I know this is a recording. Forgive me. But a picture's worth 1,000 words. Here's our family room.
Okay. Got it.
So you can see
Nice.
the Christmas across the front of the fireplace.
Yep.
Okay, this is one of 4 Christmas trees in our house.
Excellent.
So anyway, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I almost tripped over my wife's beer there. So yeah, it can be stressful, and it is stressful to me. I've been stressing about some stuff for our business. It's the year end, it's month end. You're trying to put the cherry on top of what you've done for the year, and dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, and at the same time, okay, do we have all the gifts? And so you get this rush of all the things of your roles. I'm a dad, I'm a grandfather, I'm a business guy, I'm a volunteer church leader. We've got all these things, and we have had so many Christmas parties. It's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
can we stop?
I know.
We have had more than we've ever had in our entire lives this year.
Yeah.
On top of that, our anniversary is December 4th. So, we've got that, and, trying to get ready for the next year. So yes, it does get grinding. It does. Here's where I'm headed is I have learned to take a breath. When that starts to stack up on me, I've learned to take a breath and say, okay, what's the focus here?
Yeah.
Okay. And that helps center me. That doesn't mean I go off and just, crawl in front of the fireplace I just showed you and read a book, or, watch a great Christmas movie. Although I do take time to do that.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Okay. But I've just learned to take a breath. I call it taking a breath, where you can just recenter yourself and not get caught up in the whole. So I know people that let that really get under their skin to the point that they actually hate this time of year.
Hmm.
And I can see that. I get it. You know,
Yeah.
I can get there, but that's a long answer to your question. But I just don't let myself get there. I want to remember why we're doing this,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
just
Remembering the reason for the
yeah,
season, that's
exactly.
cliche, but
Yeah,
it's important. And
no,
the pause, I love that. We've talked about that before, just
yeah.
being able to
Take the breath.
separate ourselves from the
Yeah,
moment and recognize what is happening and where we are and why we're doing whatever it is that we're doing. And um, but then I'm reminded, here's two men talking about this, right? Two
I get
married
it.
guys
Yeah,
whose wives are doing, I mean, let's be honest, right? They're doing all the preparations,
yeah.
it's the um in a sense it's a little bit of the Mary and Martha thing
Oh
where we
yes.
feel like, oh, this is great. Yes, I love Christmas and Christmas is awesome. Meanwhile, our wives are running around crazy trying to make
Yeah, we
everything
got
just
Mary
so.
running
And
around doing everything, and yeah, I,
so,
yeah, my wife right now is making waffles for our grandchildren and our daughter. And,
yeah,
she's
yeah,
wonderful. Of course, she's worried about the party tomorrow. We've got a family party, and
yep.
you know,
And it's all very exhausting. And
it is.
and in those moments there can be the tension of, well, you could help me. I'm just reminded of the scenes in The Chosen. I don't know if you guys are up to speed on The Chosen, but in season 4, um the newest season, I think, right now, they do that scene where Jesus is having dinner with all of his disciples, and Mary and Martha are there. And of course, Mary is paying close attention to Jesus, and Martha's running around like crazy and
Yeah,
and getting upset by it. And just the way that scene is portrayed feels an awful lot like what is happening right now with Christmas. And so I didn't mean to get into all of this
no,
here, but I just want to encourage us and to say it out loud for myself, is that can we just pause and remember why we're celebrating and the importance of the season, and that it's not about all of the things, but it's about Jesus, and
family.
relax,
Yeah,
family,
yeah,
yeah, enjoying the blessings of
the good stuff. Yeah,
all that we have. Yeah. So
yeah.
anyhow.
And I'm just let me add this. I mentor people that are getting married.
Mm,
So they'll come in and they want some advice and so forth. And I'll look at the young lady and I'll say, I'll bet you're so excited about your reception and about the wedding, and you've got all these
right.
plans, and I'll bet you've been working with your mom and your sisters and cousins, and I'm sure you've got your friends involved in this, and that's all exciting. And I'll look at him and I'll say, and you're probably just getting to the point where you're learning the valuable lesson of a man to say yes, dear.
Right.
Stay out of the way. Do what you're instructed and stay out of the way. And then I'll look at them and I'll say, that's all great. And those parties and the reception, the wedding, everything is so important. But I'm going to ask you a really hard question and I want your answer. And I'll look at them and I'll say, who's going to remember this a year after it's happened? Who will remember in detail what happened? And the girl will just kind of reflect. And I don't mean anything bad by this. I'm just trying to take people to where they get this realization of what's really important. It's all important. Don't I'm
Yeah.
underscoring that it's all important because people want to come and congratulate and they want to celebrate, and so that's all important. But I'll look at her and I'll say, who will remember in detail what happened during the reception or during the wedding? And she'll look at me inevitably, and it'll be just very few people. Mom, me, maybe
Yeah.
you know, there might be a few others. And I'll look at them and I'll say, and that's all fine and well. But what we need to do is we need to make the main thing the main thing. And the main thing is your relationship together. And then I use this phrase, what lasts longest is most important.
Mm. Yeah.
What lasts
Yeah.
longest is most important. And then I'll just look at them and say, please remember each other. Please remember your relationship because that's what will last longest. The party
Yeah.
will end. The party will be forgotten. After 40 years, I can't even remember what kind of punch we had at our,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know, so anyway, I look at Christmas that same way. It's all
Mm-hmm.
important, all of it. Even the
Yes.
hustle and bustle at the store. Yeah, we get frustrated with traffic but if you think about it, it's just kind of exciting that everybody's excited, and just
Yeah.
remember the main thing, um, and give grace and
Yes.
patience to the other stuff. So there's my rant.
Well, that's good. We need to get that out because it's healthy. Perspective, that's one of the beautiful things about these conversations, I feel like, is the opportunity to process out loud a little bit of what's in our heart and some of the things that we're wrestling with, and just to recognize that, you know, a little perspective kind of softens some of those rough edges, I think, on whatever's the thing going on.
Well, what's
So,
funny is this takes us back to our discussion last time. The one thing we just have to
yeah,
remember what the one thing is. We've got all
yes,
of this other stuff. We've just got to go back and say, okay, what's the one
yeah,
thing?
yeah, yeah. That was a really fun talk last time, and I felt like maybe we got cut a little short, and so I want to hit on that a little bit again. And so, um, if if you don't mind, give me the Cliff's notes again for the book and what that means for us.
Well, but we were just talking about, with the wedding and with Christmas and everything, you've got all these things, life, business, even our marriage relationship. If you really boil it down, there's fringe stuff, and it's all important. I'm not trying to downplay that, but usually there are a few things that will leverage everything else.
Mm,
And if you
yeah.
boil it down even more, there's one thing, just and it's hard to find. We talked about that movie, City Slickers, and the cowboy.
Yes.
He puts his finger up, and there's one thing, and Billy Crystal says, "Well, what's that thing?" And that's what you've got to find is what the one thing is.
Yep.
That's I think that's our eternal pursuit is to well, what's the
Mm,
one thing? What's the one
mm,
thing in my marriage? And I look at it in a variety of well, not a variety of ways, but I look at it as a role thing. My role as a husband, what's the one thing that I need to concentrate on? My role
mm,
as a father, what's the one thing? My role as a business person, what's the one thing? My spiritual life, what's the one thing? What do I need to just
yeah.
bring it down to? And so I look at it by role rather than trying to
Okay.
encompass everything. I mean, you can kind of encompass everything, but to really leverage what's going on, for me, I have to go to a role.
Yeah.
If I'm
Well,
a
that makes
coach,
sense.
if I'm a
That makes
coach for
sense
a
because,
little soccer team, what's the one thing that I need to work on?
yeah. Yeah. And so, but at the same time, for those of us that have many roles, having, a half dozen one things can now all of a sudden still feel a bit overwhelming. So then it becomes, well, what of those one things? What is maybe some root of that? And I mean, now we're back in the Inception theme where we're really digging deep into the dream of the dream of the dream, and we have to drill down, I feel like, for um, if the one thing for being a worker or an employee or a boss is probably a little bit different than being a dad, than being a husband, than being an athlete, than being a whatever, all of these different roles. But there's probably something in common rooting all of that. And
I absolutely agree. It overlaps in my
yeah,
spiritual
it
life.
has to.
If I leverage something there, my business will do better because of
Yeah.
I'm a better person. Anyway, sorry I interrupted.
Well, that's okay. We're 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 hitting the same idea. I'm just trying to figure out um, for myself, and if it could be instructive to anybody else, then is how do you do that? And I wonder if the book or something else that you've come across helps you to do that, because that might be valuable.
Do you know that he does offer, uh, kind of a structure to do that? That is in the book, and I recommend that you read the book. But it's kind of like what you just went through. It's just stepping back, removing yourself from the hustle bustle, and saying, okay, what's really important, and then trying to figure out what has the most leverage.
Mm,
We can fake ourselves out for a variety of, there's all kinds of distractions. What society tells us we should, what success looks like. Being
yeah.
influenced by your friends on Facebook. Oh man, they traveled to Dubai and I haven't, and I
Hmm.
must suck, and whatever. Or that guy ran this race and did really well, and um, I think we have to be really careful, super careful, to come back, and that's what this book really does. Is it goes back and says, okay, this is for you. Okay,
Yeah.
this is for you, and you need to decide what success looks like. And the stacking dolls, the Russian stacking dolls.
Right. Yes.
Okay, so he uses that as an example, and he says what you've got to do is you've got to think of something so big that it's impossible to you, but not out of the realm of possibility. I don't know if that
Mm,
makes sense. You know,
okay.
it's big enough that you can see it, but it's so big that you're thinking, oh man, that's impossible. And he uses a variety of examples, and just one would be like, okay, I want to make $200,000 this year, and he says, times that by whatever number you come up with in your head, times that by, let's say four. Okay, well, 200,000, that's 800,000, and you feel that emotion inside of you going, whoa, okay.
Yeah, that's
And,
impossible. That's not going to happen. Yeah.
and he says you want to be able to see it, but feel like it's impossible to get. And his reasoning is if you make it so big, your goal so big, let's say this is a 10-year goal, that in 10 years I'm going to be making $800,000 a year. Just an example. This is not what he gives, but I'm giving my own here just based on what he was doing. So in 10 years, I want to be making $800,000 a year, and this is what my life looks like because of that.
Mm,
And he said, if it's too big, bring it back. If it's not big enough, times it again.
mm,
And he says, you want it big enough that it's that first Russian doll, the one that has all the others stuck inside of it.
yeah.
And then what he says is, okay, you've got that. So that's your 10-year goal. What are you going to do this year? And that's the next stacking doll. And then he says, okay, what are you going to do this month, this week, today, this hour, this moment? What
Yeah.
am I doing this moment to make that 10-year goal of that income that I've set for myself? And he says they all have to be congruent and in line with each other. And you have to give attention to that one thing at the moment,
Mm,
to have the result down the line. And so it's a reverse engineer. What do I want
Got it.
here? Bring it
Yes.
down and say, okay, what has the most leverage and what will make the most impact right now for that goal down the road? And then he puts this caveat in it. He says, okay, you've made this so big, but and I'm kind of paraphrasing him. He says, I want you to understand that even if you don't make that goal, will it make your goal that you have in your head right now?
Mm. Mm.
And he doesn't do this. This is how I put it together. When you jump a fence or a hurdle, do you jump at it or do you jump over it?
Yeah, you have to get over,
Okay.
obviously.
And so you actually have to jump higher than the fence is, right?
Right, yeah.
And so putting this together, that's how I put it together in
Mm.
my head is instead of jumping at the fence of 200,000 or whatever your number is, do the 800,000. What if
Mm.
you clear it by whatever, okay?
Yeah.
What if you're making 300,000 a year instead of 200, okay?
Yep.
And so anyway, he says use those stacking dolls, and he said every moment of every day ask yourself the question, am I doing the one thing
Mm.
this moment that will make this day, that will make this week, that will make this month, that will make this year, that will make my 10-year goal for me?
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Okay, and so he uses those stacking dolls as the example.
Right.
I don't know if that helps as far as
Well,
putting it
I think what it
together.
does is it takes some of the pressure and the focus off the great big impossible thing, and it says, what do I do right now? I mean, that's what we ultimately have
It's
control
always
over is what I'm going to choose in this moment, and then let those moments just stack up over time. And if you've got those in alignment, then the math should take care of itself, logically.
yep.
So that I think that's a fair perspective, because I think often what happens, especially this time of year, the end of the calendar year, is we get these grand ambitions, right? But we leave them there, and then we might have some, motivation for a short period, but then that, wanes and we give up or whatever in a matter of weeks or a few months maybe, and because it just seems like it's so far away, or the goal is too big, or it's too hard or whatever. But making it into something so small and incremental, I think is a brilliant approach to the big goal achievement that we would like to have. So I think that's a great challenge, to be thinking in those terms about whatever it is. Whether, I mean, it's obviously doesn't have to be a financial goal. I mean, that's not it. It can be anything.
Well,
Um,
it should apply. What does your spiritual life look like? What's the big stacking doll, the big Russian
yeah,
stacking doll of your spiritual life? What does that look like? And it will
yeah,
look different for you. It will look different for me.
yeah,
They might be the same. I don't know, but probably not. We're different
right,
people and we're at different stages, and that's his point. But the real point is that we've always got to be reviewing every moment. Am I doing right now what will what will bring that? And I've heard it
yeah,
referred to as the compound effect. You talk
yes,
about the
yep,
compounding. I've heard it referred to as the compounding effect. I've heard it as the hinge effect. I
mm,
don't know. The hinge swings very, very small at the fulcrum point, but
yep,
out at the edge, it swings in a great
yeah,
deal.
big
And
result.
so when we make that small movement in this moment right here or in this day, it
Mm,
swings the outcome.
yes.
I just thought of something. Should we put a Christmas twist on this? You ready? I love The Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I love it. And
Mm,
I love every time somebody comes up and says, "Oh, I'm such a Scrooge." And I think, you haven't read the book, because you wouldn't say that, because Scrooge changes. And when he meets he's gone through all this review of the past, the review of the present, and then he meets with the ghost of Christmas future, and he makes a statement, and I wish I had it here, but he makes a statement. He says, "If I change things now," it, and he asks it in the form of a question, "If I change things now, will it change the outcome of my life?" And I'm paraphrasing really badly here. And then he thinks about it and he says, "Yes, it will." He makes that decision. And I love the Christmas Carol. Well, what does he do when he wakes up? He changes everything. I mean, he doubles Bob Cratchit's income. He takes care of Tiny Tim, makes sure he has all the doctors, and he changes all those things, and excuse me, absolutely changes his life. And at the end of the book, it says that he celebrates Christmas better than anyone else. So I love it when somebody says, "Oh, I'm such a Scrooge," and it's like, good.
Your time's coming.
But I haven't. Yeah, I can tell you haven't read the book.
That's right.
I love that story. Love the book. I recommend it. But that's what we're talking about, is that Scrooge was in a bad spot, and he asked the question, and then he answered his own question and said, "Yes, it will."
Yeah.
So if
the changes that he made were immediate, and then they were continuous, moment by moment.
Right.
And then they built up into the grand change that everyone would see
and
down the
that
line.
Total leverage on, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was inevitable what the outcome would be because of what he was doing right now.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like
There's
that.
your Christmas twist on this.
Yeah, look, you did it. That was fantastic. That was fantastic. Yeah. So processing what you're sharing here has made me think of a couple of other ideas that might be helpful in this realm. Is there's probably a way for everybody to process this a little bit different, but I have found a guy, John Gordon, has written a bunch of books, and he's a leadership guru. You can look him up, but he's written lots of books. I have a couple of them. One of them is called the Power of Positive Leadership, and the Energy Bus, and many others. But anyway, he has this idea where you pick a word for the year, and it's a similar concept to what you've just been talking about, but it basically wants to distill all of your ambitions, all of your goals, all of your plans, the things that you want to change, into a single word for the year, something that you can remember, something that you can post in places where you're going to see it often. Put it on your whiteboard, write it in your journal, just a singular word. So I've done this for a couple of years, and this year, just wrapping up now, my word was consistent. And because I'm the type of person who wants to make 3 or 5 different goals for each of the roles that I'm in, as a dad or a husband, or a Jesus follower or a worker, and then now I've got 20 things. It's like, I can't, that's too much. I'm going to fail at all of it because it's too much. So how do I distill these things into something far smaller that's much easier for me to hold and to keep track of? And so what I came up with was my word was consistent. For this year, my word was consistent, and I boiled it down to three very simple things that I felt encompassed most, if not all, of my roles. And those 3 things were to memorize scripture from the Bible, and the second one was to work on my communication and especially at home, and especially with Angie. And the third thing was simply to exercise 4 times a week. 3 things. They're easier for me to measure, and I have recently been working on summarizing that for my year and asking Angie, has my communication gotten any better, and how else can I look at this and improve? But man, it was really encouraging to look back over the year and be like, holy cow, I have this whole notebook filled with over 50 verses that I've committed to memory. Aside from a couple of injuries, I've been really good about the exercise part, and it works. So I'm looking forward to whatever the word is going to be for this upcoming year. And the process is very similar to what you're sharing. So let me just say to myself, and then encourage anybody else, that we've got to take some time to ask some hard questions, like, what do we need more of, or what do we need less of in our life, or what are the obstacles to the things that we really want to do or to be, and then try to distill those into a single word, or a single, maybe that doesn't work for you, maybe it needs to be an idea, or just the one thing that can help drive your daily choices. And that's really the point, right, Todd? Is kind of the crux of goal achievement, is to get it very simple for what can we do right now.
Yeah, what am I doing at this moment right now? You remind me of, I'm going to really expose myself here. I'm probably going to be in trouble, but I think it was Mark Twain that said it this way. He said, to be simple, you have to first be complicated. In other words, you've got to think it all out.
Okay.
And then narrow it all back down. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that's what you've done with that word of consistency. You put some substance inside of that instead of just having the shell of a one word.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having that shell, you had substance to it because you were tracking those things of that substance.
Right.
But
yes.
but the word reminded you of what that substance inside of that shell that you had in there was. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that's why I say that's what reminded me. I'm sure it was Mark Twain. Anyway, to be simple, you've got to first go complicated and then bring it back.
Yeah, that's good. And all of this requires some effort. We're always running the hamster wheel of life, it seems like. And geez, if we just need to sit alone for a while and think about these things, so that we can, really have some plan and make sure we're living on purpose, and that we're making the kind of impact that we want with our life. I mean, isn't that really what we all want, is to make a difference some kind of way? And I don't think we can do that unless we're spending some energy to just think about this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Thanks for the
Super
discussion.
cool.
Any other thoughts?
Maybe just, I don't want to. How much time do we have?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right. I'm going to spit this out really fast. I am compelled to share that I think there could be a universal one thing for everybody. And then how you manifest that one thing can be different for us all. But if we can agree that we come from a place where God is in charge, and He has made us, and He loves us more than we could ever imagine, and He has made us for a unique purpose that only we can fill, because He made us that way, that we should trust Him for the instruction that He has given us in His Word, the Bible. And in that, I think others will support me on this. I'm not just making it up, but His instructions to us are as simple as to love Him, to love God, and to love people. If that could be our one thing, is how do I live out loving God and loving people, we will accomplish whatever the things are in each of our roles very well. So I'm preaching this to myself because I feel like that has to be the root or the foundation of where any of this really goes. And I understand that if you think I'm all crazy about this God and Jesus stuff, then that's up to you. But for me, I think having this unshakable, solid rock foundation of who I am and how I relate to God and who God is makes that all have a lot more meaning. So
Well put.
that's the one.